Hi everyone, Paolo here again, and this is book number 13 out of my 52 book challenge, wherein I plan to read one book a week or 52 books in a span of 1 year. And today's book of choice is Launch by Jeff Walker. It's about an internet millionaire's secret formula to sell almost anything online, build a business you love, and live the life of your dreams. So I think it's a very relevant book in our current day and age wherein a lot of transactions are done online. And this book teaches you the framework which you can apply in whether physical goods selling or information product selling. So the framework is really about how can you effectively create an offer and launch and create, demand and new customers to buy your product. So before I get into my usual 5 key takeaways, I'd start by showing you a picture of the phase 3 of Marvel Cinematic Universe. So if you noticed in business, it can be really related to the way movies do their promotions. Because if you notice the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they created a roadmap of all the upcoming movies, and for each singular movie, there was tons of media awareness done. They did a lot of guest showings in talk shows, and the main reason is because movies, similar to businesses, they even prior to launching the movie on its premiere night, they make sure to create hype and anticipation by, you know, appearing as guests in a lot of these talk shows, talking to news articles, launching a lot of press releases, in order for the public to gain interest and to build hype, so that by the time that the movie actually launches, people will rush into the cinemas or subscribe to Netflix or Disney Plus and so on and so forth, right? So similar to your product, you need to create this hype. You need to build your list so that you have a customer base who would anticipate your product, and by the time that you launch, they would transact and buy your product. I think this is where a lot of business people make a mistake, or even companies make a mistake, wherein they follow hope marketing. So what does hope marketing mean? So they build the product, they purchase a lot of inventory, for example, if you're selling physical goods, and then hope that you'll be able to market your product and flush out inventory. So Jeff Walker's strategy is a bit different, wherein he starts with four key phases, from pre-launch, pre-launch, launch, and finally post-launch, which I'll be discussing later. But again, relating it to this movie hype in the movie roadshow awareness or promotion campaign, whenever you launch a product, if you have a launch date, make sure that you work backwards in terms of building hype, building awareness, building your fans, so that by the time that you launch your product, you'll be able to gain new customers right away. So again, as usual, I have 5 key takeaways from a license to print money all the way to your genius zone. So let's start by my first key takeaway, which is takeaway number 1, a license to print money and the importance of a list. So Jeff highly encourages everyone to build your list. The reason being is because when customers are like whenever you want to have a new customer, you need to take them to a journey. It's not as if they see your product and they purchase right away, right? There are some people who are impulsive wherein they see a product, they buy it right away, but often than not, you need to gain their trust, you need to gain their buy-in to convince themselves to buy your product. So again, his main strategy is really building that list, because when you're list building, it's similar to like relationship building, wherein you share valuable information to your potential customers, and at the same time, you get to build rapport with them. In the internet setting, it's usually done through social media or through your email distribution list. So again, it's very important to build your list. The reason being is you can also segment these lists into prospect and a buyer's list. So studies show that a buyer's list as compared to a prospect list is 10 to 15 times more valuable, mainly because moving from simply a prospect who may have signed up to your newsletter to a customer who actually purchases your product is more likely to repurchase any other products that you might sell because they're familiar with your brand, they already know your products, the quality, and so on and so forth. And of course, it's about, being top of mind of your customers. Out of sight, out of mind. So it's very important to continuously send emails and remind them that you're offering something or you're simply adding value. So one of the examples given there is because of Jeff was able to build this list, even if he never met a person, but when he talked in a seminar, people approach him as if that they knew him personally, mainly because through his email campaigns, people started to connect with him and they felt that they had a regular conversation with Jeff. So he highlights the importance of a list because lists are your property wherein you own, as opposed to, you know, your social media contacts, wherein you're very dependent on the platform that you're using. Because today, when I'm delivering this, the main social media platform are the likes of Facebook, Instagram, and so on and so forth, right? But what if fast forward 10 years from now, there's a new platform that holds majority of where customers congregate. So again, unlike those social media platforms where you're dependent to them, by having a customer list, regardless of which platform they may be, often than not, they have one email that they use, right? So you own this, you can communicate with them regardless of the platform that they use. So what are the steps involved in list building? So the first key step is really about defining your avatar. So you need to think with an end in mind. So when you think about it, it's not a shotgun approach wherein you launch a product and then whoever clicks your link and so on may be your customer. That's shooting in the dark. The best practice is better to even prior to launching your product, you need to first identify who is your dream customer. Meaning, if you were to craft the perfect customer who you'd want to engage with, what are his or her characteristics, what are his or her purchasing behavior, demographics, psychographics, and so on and so forth. So once you define the avatar, next is you need to define an ethical bribe. So an ethical bribe is a reason for them to opt in. Again, it's about list building. Before asking for their contact information, may it be a cell phone, a number, may it be an email address. Of course, there needs to be an exchange of value. So you need to define what is your ethical bribe, or what would make them want to give their contact information. So few ideas is, subscribing to a newsletter, um, getting a free trial sample of your product, and so on and so forth, right? Once you have those avatar, ethical bribe, the next one is to create that squeeze page. So again, we're moving to an online setup wherein transactions are done online, right? So you need to have a landing page, or in Jeff's term, it's a squeeze page wherein you need to have a lead capture form. So simply, asking for an input box, or a box wherein they type in their email address and submit to avail of your ethical bribe or your free offer, and so on and so forth. And lastly is generating traffic. So you need to generate traffic, may it be through social media, boosting an ad, them clicking on it, and then giving away their contact information. So again, once you have this list, once you build rapport, once you build a strong following, it would be easier for you to upsell or sell any product. All right. So it's like you have a license to print money. The next one is the next takeaway is hopes, dreams, fears, and aspirations. So in our world today, we're bombarded with various information from text messages, um, from social media, and so on and so forth. So there's what you call the communication fog. Because of this being bombarded with millions of information a day, as a marketer, you need to stand out from the noise. And the best way to do it is being able to capture people's interests by tapping into their hopes, dreams, fears, and aspirations. Anything in this world, you could cluster them into three core areas, right? Wealth, health, and relationships. Any product, any solution usually falls under these three buckets. So you need to determine which among, based on your product, what does it solve? What pain does it alleviate? What dreams does it help a person achieve? What fears does it help resolve? And what aspirations does your solution actually help achieve, right? So by thinking, by putting yourself in the shoes of the person, and helping them reach their hopes, dreams, address their fears and aspirations, this makes you stand out from all of these communication fog, and make them want to subscribe to your newsletter, or subscribe to your opt-in form, right? So again, it's hopes, dreams, fears, and aspirations. The next one is, this is the core framework that Jeff uses in structuring any product launch. So again, the biggest mistake of most marketers or most businessmen is that they usually upfront the purchasing of inventory, the launching of the product without actually building the hype, building the anticipation. Often than not, it's a struggle for them to flush out the inventory, and if it's a perishable good, it's a bigger challenge because it's a race against time. So in order to have a better approach, a more effective approach in doing so, these are the core. These are the four key stages that Jeff uses, that which he can replicate regardless of which industry. So we start with the pre-launch. So it's 2x pre. Basically, this is the stage wherein you can gauge or judge how receptive people are to your product, right? And you can better understand their objections. This is where you tease curiosity, whether or not there is indeed interest or market demand for your product. You can even tap your customers to co-create the product. So the good thing about co-creating a product wherein you ask for their opinion on what are their challenges and so on and so forth. If you get the response, because the feeling that they are a part of the creation of the product, they're more likely to become fans of your products and eventually become customers, right? You also take this opportunity to understand their objections, their hesitance on why this product may not work for them, and you'll be able to address them as you go along. Of course, it's about conversing, not simply shoving down a product to their throat, but really having a conversation with them, keeping them engaged, and finally leading them to the pre-launch sequence. So the good thing about the pre-launch is, again, unlike the past wherein we simply buy the inventory, create the product, and hope to sell it, right? Here in the pre-launch, you're even with the tools and technology that we have, we're easily able to conduct market research, like through online, gather opinions, gather conversations with our potential customers without actually even building the product, right? So by asking them, iterating, you'll be able to define, the right messaging that resonates well with your customers, and customize as you go along the four steps in launching, right? So again, that's a pre-launch. It's more of information gathering, objection gathering, and further refining your message. So once you're done with the pre-launch, The pre-launch is usually done 5 to 12 days. It's a series of emails or communication that you have with your customers who have gave their opt-in form, right? So this is where you show them why should they listen to you. It's either you focus on how can you help alleviate their pain or how can your solution provide the benefit, right? Again, the framework applies regardless of what you sell, may it be an information product, learning how to use digital marketing for your business, all the way to selling physical products like supplements, vitamin supplements, right? So determining whether you want to highlight, how can your solution alleviate the pain or how can you provide the benefit. So there's a few steps in the pre-launch sequence. The first one is to show them the opportunity. So again, if you have a product, you need to show them why your opportunity is new, why your opportunity can help them, in effect, how can you help them solve their hopes, dreams, alleviate their fears and aspirations. Once the opportunity is set, the second one is you need to define your position, right? Why should they trust you? So one of the critical factors of a person buying from your company or from you in general is, of course, they need to have a sense of trust, that you are an expert, that you know your product. So again, you need to establish your position, why they can trust you, why your product is good. And once you establish that, next is you move on to teach them. Teach them, how can your product actually help them. So you go here to the details on how your solution is better versus the competitors. How can you actually help them solve a problem that they're trying to solve? The next one is raising objections. So raising and answering objections. So here you're able to highlight the frequently asked questions so that at the back of the customer's mind, you're slowly starting to remove objections in their head, and they're starting to rationalize the potential purchase of your product. The next one is, once you handle their objections, it's about leading them through the path and giving them a preview of what to look forward to next time. So again, it's a matter of moving them down the funnel from simply being aware of your product all the way to actually want to purchase your product and become fans of your product in the long run, right? So giving them a preview of what to expect next, right? And the lastly is call to action. So since this is a pre-launch, you need to remind them that when is your launch date? Mark your calendars. We're gonna have a special promo at this date. Make sure to purchase before this date. Make sure to look out at a specific launch date, right? So it's more of, again, similar to the movie analogy. You're building the hype, you're building the anticipation. So by the time that you finally launch your product, you can easily flush out your inventory or gain sales. So you're done with the pre-launch, you're done with the pre-launch, and finally, this is where the money happens. We make it rain, right? So the launching sequence. This is where what you call an open cart. So if you're in the e-commerce business, may it be physical or digital products, this is where you name it. It's called an open cart, where you make your product available. Finally, the long wait is over, and people can finally transact and purchase your product. So this is where you can send a blast email to your customers for them to buy now, and make sure you offer a sense of scarcity. The main reason is because if you don't offer a sense of scarcity, people tend to delay, right? Delay the purchase, they don't have a rush to purchase, and because of this, they're they end up forgetting and not being able to purchase. So usually, the best practice is to cut the offer 24 hours to 7 days. This emphasizes the sense of scarcity. You can even amplify scarcity by either saying that the special price is only available up to this time, so there's an increase in price. There's a potential loss of a certain bonus if they don't sign up, or even to the extreme, complete shut off or shut down of the offer. So again, depending on your strategy, you can inject a sense of scarcity to accelerate your sales. And lastly, after these launch happens, this is where the post-launch. There's also post-launch that you need to implement. This is where you follow up on new clients, uh, or maybe for those who have visited the cart but have not checked out. This is where you could send continuous follow-ups on potential other offers that you have or an upcoming offer that you may have. But at the end of the day, you're building a list from 1 to 1,000. At the end of the day, these are your potential customers, your buyers, and as long as you build a strong list, maintain that relationship, over time you'll build trust. And some people take time for them to think about and rationalize their actual purchase, and because you have that list, you have a direct line to them, and you have the direct line to influence them to potentially buy. So again, those are the four key stages of our launch sequence: from pre-launch, pre-launch, launch, and post-launch. The next key takeaway is the weapons of mass influence. So these are the mental triggers. I think it's very powerful. I think I did a deep dive in a separate book summary that I did. Um, what was the title again? Yeah, I did the Thinking Fast and Slow. There's a lot of these mental triggers discussed, but it was also discussed in the book. So the first one of the weapons of mass influence is really about how can you use, um, you know, the cognitive bias of people to your advantage. So the first one is authority. So we tend to follow opinions of people with authority. So how can you use it in selling your product? If you associate yourself with a respectable figure, or if you're selling a health supplement, for example, if there's a higher chance that they would trust you if it's backed by doctors or people with lab gowns. So you need to establish that sense of authority or your expertise in that field of area that you're selling. The second one is reciprocity. So we tend to feel indebted when we receive something. The feeling that we need to give back or return the favor. So for example, uh, if you're offering an information product, so if you offer a free training that only gives them a glimpse, right, of what to expect, tendency is because they received something, they feel that they're indebted to actually purchase your other products. It's not a surefire, but at least there's some level of cognitive bias there. The third one is time and frequency. So again, in your list building, make sure that you're consistent in communicating with them, because over time, the more frequent they're exposed to your name, your email, they're seeing you're constantly communicating to them, people tend to gain more trust to you as a brand, as a person, as a company. So time and frequency. The next one is anticipation. So you need to build that sense of anticipation, similar to the movie analogy, wherein you're creating that hype for them to, give a preview of what to expect in the future. Scarcity is next, which I discussed earlier. Want more if it's not available or if it's less available. So there's that innate bias wherein if a certain product or solution is limited quantity, is a tendency to be out of supply. So we are compelled to act faster if there's a sense of scarcity. Likability, again, it's whenever you're communicating with your customers, maybe through email, social media, you need to make sure that it's a conversation style rather than a product pitch, because people don't want to be sold to, but they want to keep it as natural conversations and to increase your likelihood to sell. The last three is, social proof. It goes without saying, if we see a person using a product or more people using it, it's called the bandwagon effect. We're biased towards solutions or products that are widely used. The last two is events and rituals. So if you notice, a lot of companies hold annual conferences, mainly because this is, building, linking it to the last one, community, something that they look forward to every year. They have that sense of belonging, and you're building a community. So again, keeping these weapons of mass influence in mind, you could increase your sales by injecting these psychological triggers, mental triggers, or unconscious bias in your sales pitch. And the last one is your genius zone. So your genius zone is actually, but I think it was initially written by Dan Sullivan, wherein you identify your genius zone, or your unique ability. His definition of the genius zone is one thing you were put on earth to do, one thing you can so well that the time seems to disappear when you're doing it, and the one thing that other people find exceptional, that comes so easy that you can't even understand why people are so amazed. So, whenever thinking about the product, you need to think, how can you be more effective, right? So he has what you call the genius zone. So in essence, this is the explanation. But for me, in my own terms, I define the genius zone as something that I'm really really good at, without that comes natural, without me exerting much effort. I'm able to deliver high results with minimal effort. It comes naturally, as if it's my innate skill. And I'm passionate about it. The main reason this is important is because a lot of people try to work on their weaknesses. But his mentality is, rather than work on your weaknesses, uh, build a team who can complement you in those weak areas, and double down on your key strengths. Strengths that you are passionate about, you're naturally good at. And if you continuously practice this method, over time, you'll be able to, be an expert in that niche. You'll be able to produce more results, be more profitable, by highlighting your genius zone. So it was a long summary, but again, that's book number 13. I'm very excited to share this with you. Those are my key takeaways. I hope you liked it. Again, that is the summary of the book Launch by Jeff Walker. So if you like the summary, I've summarized a lot of other books. You could check out YouTube, my YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com, type in Paulo Balinas, search through my previous summaries, and make sure you like and subscribe, right? So with that, I look forward for book number 14 next week. Thank you and have a great day. Bye.